Good morning, everybody. So just giving you guys a second to hop on here. If you can hear me and see me, say hello and where you're coming from, just so we can make that connection. I see people from Wisconsin, Texas, Georgia in the house. We've got Tucson, Arizona. Welcome, welcome. Thank you guys saying I'm looking good. You know what? I'm trying products you guys don't have yet. And they're coming and oh my goodness, they are phenomenal. But you guys will get to know all about that at convention. Before we get started, I just want to recap a little bit. What did we talk about last week? Last week, we talked about the knowing doing gap. So basically, in a nutshell, all that is we gather all this information and yet we do nothing with it. What is that? The paradigm controls us, right? So we've been talking about the paradigm. And in this lesson, we're going to actually dive even deeper into what the paradigm is, how to change it, and also what the paradigm is responsible for in our lives. I think that's a really important thing to know. So if you're ready to make a big change in your life, and hopefully you are, if you're tuning into this, that means you're somewhat interested in making a big change in your life, whether financial or personal or, anywhere in your life, really. This is the lesson that's going to help you do it. So this is the how-to. It took us a little bit to get to this point, but this is the how-to. Now, we also ended the last lesson and I had you guys write down on a piece of paper an R, right, for your results. And on one side, write the negative, and one other side, write the positive. Well, we're going to dive even deeper into that assignment. So if you hadn't done it yet, that's okay, because this is a lesson we're really going to get into it. So as you really start to understand what we're doing here, you're going to realize that you're going to have the keys to the kingdom, as Bob calls it. You're going to really have what it takes to make a lasting change. So I want to share just a really quick story before I get into this lesson. And that's because I've been personally testing this out myself for quite a while. So for one, I've been reading this book for quite some time, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I just want to share this copy really quickly with you guys. This copy is signed by Napoleon Hill himself. But I've been reading this for a long time. Before I was reading this, though, I was doing other things that I didn't even realize I was doing, which was listening to things in my car on the way to work and on the way to my door-to-door insurance sales. I was changing my paradigm without even realizing it. But, after I had done that in a similar way as Bob, I wanted to know what I had done. So as I began to really study how this works, how you can literally reprogram your subconscious mind, I wanted to test it out for myself in what I felt was the weakest area of my life, where my worst habits were. Okay. So I decided to test it out. And so for the last 30 days, here's mine. I got my positives. I burned my negatives, so I don't have them here. But I tested this out with working out at the gym. And so some of you may know last year I attempted to work out. I made it about a couple weeks in and I quit. And you know what? I listened to my excuses more than I listened to why I should do it, right? And to be honest, I never really had a good reason to work out. I've always been the kind of person that doesn't really need to. That was one of my excuses, right? And so I always talked myself out of it. Well, I decided to do this 30 days ago, actually a little more than 30 days ago. And I really put this into practice because I wanted to know if it would work on the weakest parts of me. So every single morning and every single night, I told myself I love working out. I look forward to it every day. It's my personal development for my body. This is something that I'm stepping into. This is the person I'm becoming. And because I'm associating myself with that person, I'm identifying as a person who likes to work out. That is who I'm going to step into. Basically, this is what I'm telling myself every day for twice a day, every day. So I start doing this. And I kid you guys not, at day 31, Bob says do it for 1 or 2 months. I did it for 31 days. I'm still doing it, actually. But on my 31st day, something habitually in me changed. And suddenly my behavior, my subconscious programming started kicking in. And before I knew it, I was walking to the gym every single day without any more effort that it took before. And I'm working out every single day. And every time I hear an excuse, I kick it out right away. Well, you should spend more time with your kids. It's only 30 minutes. You can do this. I should go be doing the laundry. you can do this. This is what you decided you're stepping into. You're becoming this. If you want to do it, you got to do the work. If you choose to stay comfortable, then you're not going to ever get any results. And so for the past 2 weeks, I've been consistently working out every single day, and it's been effortless. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not sore. I'm very sore, but I don't have any excuses. And so if I can make this work for somebody that's never worked out outside of the military, when somebody's literally making me work out, then you guys can apply this to any part of your life. But you have to do the illogical. You got to do things that don't make sense. And why I'm telling you guys this is because the paradigm is what dictates your logic. So whatever you've got planted in your subconscious mind is what's going to dictate what you find to be logical or illogical. Does that make sense? So we've had a lot of talk about paradigms in our last lesson, and they literally control everything in our lives. When the Wright brothers came on the scene, they wanted to introduce us to a new kingdom. That was flight, right? There were two bicycle mechanics that were talking about flying in the air. Can you imagine at the time, the people around them were probably like, what are you talking about? We are humans. First of all, we're not going to go just flying in the air. They got a lot of resistance. When Josh and I came out with CBD, that was not necessarily a logical thing for us to do at the time, yet our vision for the future was already there. So we already knew that just because we were one of the first didn't mean that it was always going to sound illogical to everybody else, right? And so we just did what we knew we were supposed to do because we wanted to introduce people to a new kingdom. Logic keeps us wired where we are. We don't do things because we're like, oh, that don't make sense. Well, what's that voice in your head that says that don't make sense? That's your paradigm speaking. Okay, so logic keeps us wired where we are. As paradigms change, your logic will also begin to change. You see, it's totally illogical for people to believe that we can improve by 500%, 700%. Most people say, oh, you can improve by 1 to 2% a year. In fact, when you're looking at sales projections and when operations is trying to figure out, should we order more of this or should we order more of this based on the past, right? We always look at the past. Based on this means we don't need this much of this, right? We rely on logic. We don't think we're going to grow by 1,000% in 1 year. That's illogical. When I told Bob Proctor we grew by 1,000% in 2018 and 19, he said, you took a quantum leap. And he showed me this book, U Squared by Pritchard Price, which is exactly about that. It's illogical for MDC to make that jump. It's illogical for somebody to go from a 1K affiliate to a super affiliate in the same year. That's illogical. Most people think I'm going to set the bar kind of low, so that's more believable. But what if you changed your paradigm right now to visualize and become that super affiliate or that quantum leap version of yourself? You can do that. It doesn't require any more effort. So your paradigm controls your logic. So what we're going to do to change the paradigm is also illogical. All right. It's illogical to read the same book over and over and over again. Doesn't make sense. People say, why do you keep reading that? Well, I guess my logic is if my mentor spent his whole life reading it and his mentor spent his whole life writing it, then I'm going to do the same because it's created a lot of good results in his life. In fact, it took my income from $50,000 a year to over $1 million a month, right? That's illogical, right? But I'm reading it over and over again because it's something I'm getting out of it every time. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for me to read the same affirmations every single day. I had the Think Up app in my phone. And I remember when I was feeling worthless, when I was feeling down and out, when I was feeling like I was unimportant and it didn't matter to people in my life, I started telling myself the opposite. And at first it didn't seem real. At first I felt like I was lying to myself. It didn't make any sense at all. But over time, it started to make sense. It started to become believable. I started to identify with that next version of myself. And before I knew it, my results had begun to change too. When The Secret had come out in 2006, I had a 1-year-old baby at the time. My oldest son, who's going to be 17 this year. That's crazy. He's 1 year old crawling around. I'm watching The Secret. And the first time I've seen this, I'm like, wow, this seems fake. This seems really weird. Like, I don't know if I could get behind this the first time I saw The Secret. But I decided that I was going to watch it every single day for 30 days. A lot changed in my life in those 30 days. For one, I discovered network marketing. And for two, my eyes began to open up to a world of opportunity. That didn't make sense to anybody around me, especially The Secret's kind of like an 1.5 hour movie. It's not a short, quick flick, right? It's kind of a long movie there. But after I got to studying this material, I began to really internalize it. It didn't make sense for me to repeat those same messages. I told myself, early on, when I was still broke, that one day I was going to earn millions of dollars a year. That didn't make sense, but I did it. So the book I began to study after I started reading The Secret was Money and the Law of Attraction. Now, I tried to read Think and Grow Rich right out the gates, but this was so foreign to me and so complex. And honestly, the first chapter was so boring that I literally just couldn't get myself to get through it. So I read Money and the Law of Attraction, and that broke it down, same concepts, but in a simple way. And that's a book that started transforming my life. Now, Bob has read this book, he said, since 1963 on repeat. His was falling apart even till the time of his passing. Napoleon spent his whole life putting this together, studying the world's most successful and effective people. And you know what's interesting is they all have something in common. They all know how to rewrite their subconscious programming. So, like I said, this isn't going to make sense to you guys. And people are going to ask a lot of questions. But if you do the work, the results will show up. So I didn't realize at the time what had happened to me as things began to change around me. But what I realized was I was actually changing my own paradigm. Now, this can happen to anybody. This is not just something special that happens to just a few people. It could happen to anybody. All right. And it can happen to you. You can literally take your income from where it is now and have a quantum leap to where you envision it to be. I've seen quite a few people, even in this business that we're in now, go from welfare and food stamps to earning six figures in a year. I've personally witnessed that in this industry and in this company. And what did they do differently? They changed their paradigm. They stopped telling themselves that they were stuck. So now let's go back to think of what our paradigm is. Remember, we said that when you arrived on the scene as a baby, with no conscious mind, right? Everything is just going straight into the subconscious mind. And through repetition, ideas get fixed into the subconscious mind. That's how you learn a language. That's how you're understanding what I'm saying right now. You understand English. And if you don't, well, you understand your language and you understand that language because that's what was around you growing up. Now, there are some countries and some people in parts of these countries that speak 4 or 5 different languages and they think nothing of it. In America, we're like 1, 2 languages max, right? It's like English or Spanish, right? I mean, we're pretty much a melting pot. But if you go into some other countries, the kids by age 4 are speaking 4 or 5 different languages and they don't think anything of it because the child doesn't have the ability to say, I can't learn that. It's just around them, right? And it's repeated constantly. So this is how the subconscious mind gets ideas fixed in there. That's how you learn language. And some people, like I said, grow up with more than one. So we're a product of our environments. There's no question about that. And so when ideas go in over and over, they become fixed in there. They get stuck there. And sometimes these ideas are not good ideas. And sometimes they're negative ideas that get stuck in there. So how do we change it? Well, let's think about it this way. The paradigm controls the behavior. Your paradigm is controlling your behavior. It's why you get up and move into the routine that you get up into every single day. It's why you sleepily walk into the kitchen and start the coffee maker. It's why you go straight into work dressed and acting the way you do, right? It's the way you do things every single day. Your paradigm is controlling your behavior, and your behavior is what's producing the results. Your behavior is what produces the results. Notice I said, just because you study it and read it doesn't mean you're going to get results. It doesn't mean that. You could watch this video and then nothing will happen for you. Well, you have to internalize it, right? Your behavior, it has to be internalized to the point where your behavior begins to change. The paradigm controls the behavior controls and produces the results in your life. And so if you're looking at your results and you're thinking, I don't have good results, I don't have any good results. My sales go up and down. People that join my business often leave my business. When people come in, they find a reason to quit, or people, whatever your reality is right now, whatever your results are right now is based on your past thinking and your past behavior. So now let's take a look at the results you don't like, right? Now understand that there's a law of opposites, okay? There's a universal law of polarity, right? It's negative, positive, up, down, hot, cold. There's a law of opposites out there. And so when I asked you guys in the last lesson, and I'm going to do it again here, so we're clear here, I want you to do this with me. If you have paper with you, do it right now or do it after you watch this recording. If you didn't do it in the last lesson, do it now. Okay, and on one side, the negative side, I want you to write down in full detail what the results are that you're currently getting, that you're not happy with. Now, some results are going to be negative and some are going to be positive, and the fact is they'll be both. You're going to hear that a couple more times and then it'll really click, but really it's all about our perspective, right? So let's choose the negative with your income that you want to change. Let's talk about business for here just a minute. Think about now you can say, well, I can't make any more income because I'm already capped out in my salary at work. Well, you're not in my daily choice. And the truth is the money doesn't come from your company, it goes through your company from one end of infinite source of supply to the other. So literally, as your behavior changes, your results have to change. There's no way around that, really. The company doesn't dictate your paycheck. Your behavior dictates your paycheck through the company. And so if you're acting like a super affiliate and you're behaving as a super affiliate and you're doing the work of a super affiliate, guess what? Eventually your results will also be super affiliate. Now, if you're showing up every day as an executive or a builder or an unranked individual that's putting in just a little work or maybe just starting out slow, and there's nothing wrong with that, but those are the results you're going to get, right? All right. Now, like I said, money is just energy, right? So it comes from one side of infinite source of supply. There's no shortage. It doesn't matter what's going on around you. It doesn't matter if we're in a recession, depression, none of that even matters, because if you know that in the Great Depression, there were millionaires being made, well, then you get to control the economy around you. You don't have to let the economy control you. So let's say that we got our negatives written down on this side here. Put a graphic description in full detail. What's the negative that you want to change in your life? My income is $4,000 a month. And I seem to always stay at that level. And no matter how hard I try, even if my sales go up, they come back down to $4,000 a month. I seem to not get past that. Now, some people are going to write a weight goal or something like that here. They're going to say, no matter what I do, I always am plateaued at this weight right here. Well, that's a mindset. That's why you get stuck there. Okay. It's a paradigm. So we're going to write all that down. And then on the positive side, we're going to write the exact opposite. What do we want to see in our life? What results do we want to have? I'm so happy and grateful now that money comes to me effortlessly in continual, multiple sources. And I have effective leads flowing to me at all times. I'm a magnet for success and the right people align to me effortlessly. Write down in full detail the results that you want. I had somebody come to my office yesterday and she said, I'm realizing that I'm putting a lot of my energy in a different business than My Daily Choice. And yet I want to put a lot of energy into my Daily Choice business, but I'm spread too thin and I want them both to work, but I can't make them both work because I can only give so much into one area versus the other. I said, that's a paradigm. Of course, you're saying that it has to be hard. You're saying that there has to be a struggle attached to your success. You're saying that you can't do both. You're saying that you can't run your brick and mortar and you can't build your My Daily Choice business. Well, what if you could? Well, if you could write it down. You could write it down on the positives, whatever you want to create in your life, and don't hold back. But I will say this, you want to keep it short and sweet because I'm going to ask you to write this down 100 times. I'm so happy and grateful now that money flows to and through me and I'm a magnet of infinite leads in my business. I earn $5 million a month, whatever that number is. And I align effortlessly to the leaders meant to work with me. This can be your sales. This can be any goals that you want to write down. Okay. Now, on the negative side, we're going to rip this in half. And we're going to literally burn it. I burnt mine. I took a video of me. It was really hard actually to burn something while recording, but I did it. All right. So I went to literally burn this side in a safe way. And it sounds silly, but it's symbolic. And of course, it doesn't mean that it automatically disappears from your mind. It doesn't, right? It's still going to be in there for a little while, but you've symbolically burnt it. You're letting it go. All right. And then on the positive side, here's the illogical part. And I only want you to choose one or two things at a time, 2 habits that you want to change. I want to write this down 100 times at minimum a day, 100 times a day. At the bare minimum, I want you to repeat it out loud morning and night, every single day. I was talking to Candace Bird Davis yesterday, and she said a year ago, she said, Jenna, a year ago, she's like, I kid you not, I did this exercise. And she said, I wrote down on my plus side over here, she said, I wrote down that I was going to be attracting entrepreneurs that earn 6, 7, and 8 figures a year into my business. I was going to attract real professionals into my business. Not a year later, and it's happening. It's happening right now. She's got multiple 6, 7, and 8 figure income earners now in her business. She put the signal out, electromagnetic signal sent out into the cosmos, into the universe. She stepped into that next version of herself, and what came back? Action, reaction. It came back to her. It has to. That's law. You can't fail at this if you go through this. It's literally laws of the universe. All right. So like I said, only work on 1 or 2 things at a time. Okay. That's why I say have a personal goal and a professional goal. Now I want to talk to you guys really quickly about company paradigms. Well, what does that even mean? Company culture. Culture is group thought, group habit. All right. So Bob Proctor went into Prudential Insurance Company many years ago, and he got them to do 2 things together. And they were doing this together. So they were creating camaraderie, but they decided to change 2 things about their business, just 2. And so I want you to think about this story and how it relates to your team and how we can implement this company wide. All right. So he got them to do 2 things. One was he got everybody to be skin to skin with a prospect by 9 a.m. every single morning. That was something they weren't doing before. So he said, everybody needs to be skin to skin with a prospect by 9 a.m. every single morning. And number 2, he's going to make sure that everybody that's skin to skin with that prospect is asking every single person to purchase $100,000 worth of insurance or more. Now, nobody was doing that at the time. This was in the 70s. In the 70s, they weren't doing $100,000, a year policies, like, let alone every single week. This increased sales by hundreds of millions of dollars just by changing 2 habits in the company. So now let's talk about how do we do that in My Daily Choice. Let's say we commit as a company to do 2 things. Now, if you study these 6, 7, 8, and 9 figure income, there's this massive amount of incomers now in this business. If you study what they're really doing, you will see this. You will see that they're doing multiple presentations every single day. They're hosting. I've seen them host up to 9 presentations every single day. Now, I know we have a Netflix awesome documentary video that's your presentation. And of course, we've been saying, just share the video. Listen, that is a great tool that you can use. But listen, they are doing up to 9 presentations every single day. And all they're doing is invite, and present, invite, present. And they're doing that over and over and over again. And some of these folks have done over 200,000 in volume in their first 30 days. We have a new almost 100K affiliate that has done it in 3 weeks. What is she doing? Invite, present, invite, present. Okay, so what are we going to do this company wide? How are we going to make this happen right now? Okay. 1, I want to challenge you guys to host a daily presentation. Now, if you've been relying on your upline up until this point, this is your chance to now step out into becoming that upline you wish you had, or becoming the upline you do have. All right. I want you to host a daily presentation once a day. Now, some of you are part-timers. I understand maybe every day is too difficult. If you're not full-time yet, or you're working your way there, then you need to at minimum host a weekly presentation. Now, the interesting and great thing about this is the company's already doing that. Starting September 8th of 2022, I realize this video is going to be dated at some point, but we're doing a daily presentation. And so, we're doing a weekly presentation. And so what you can do then is invite everybody you know to these weekly presentations. Now, we're going to cap it out about 60, 70 people, max in person, but we're going to live stream it. So you can get everybody on the live stream. So that's a good place for you to start. However, the goal is that you will commit to doing 1 presentation every single day. And if you want to accelerate your results, you can do more than one. You're going to do 3 a day. If you want to go bonkers, you're going to do 9 a day, right? And I'm telling you, if you look at some of the top income earners in our industry, this is what they're doing. Okay, so that's the first thing. Host a recurring presentation at least once a day, and you're going to invite at least 50 people to that every single day. 50. It can be short and sweet, and not everybody's going to come, and that's okay. But we're going to invite 50 or more people to our presentations every single day. Now, number 2, so that's all part of 1. Number 1 is host a presentation and invite 50. Number 2 is we're going to ask everybody that we invite who sees the presentation to purchase at least 90 points worth of products. Every person that comes in and watches the presentation, start them with an executive pack. Now, if we do that company-wide and everybody's seeing a presentation every single day, and 50 or more people are being asked to purchase 90 points every single day, what do you think your numbers are going to look like? You're not going to be hovering at a 1K for very long. You won't be hovering at a 5K for very long. In fact, you'll be more towards the 250K affiliate just like that. And you will not even recognize your organization anymore. So what's the biggest problem we face in our company right now? It's our paradigm. It's our group habit. We have moved into this weird habit of training just to get to the next training, and yet nobody's taking any action. Now, there are some people taking action, and they're the people that are getting all the results, right? How come, I said this many times, 97% of people aren't getting results in life, and 1% are. The 1% are doing this. The 1% are taking action. 1% are changing their behavior. And because they're changing their behavior, they're changing their results, sometimes overnight. They said we were an overnight success. We're not an overnight success. We reprogrammed ourselves, and we took a quantum leap. You can do the same thing. This will transform your business. This will transform your life. And it will transform your income as well. Now, the paradigm is a multitude of habits. I'm going to repeat this often throughout this series because it has to really sink in. So say it with me, all right? A paradigm is a multitude of habits, a multitude of ideas fixed into the subconscious mind. We have control over what goes in and out of there, all right? Doesn't matter how they got there. Some of us spend our entire lives thinking about why these ideas are there. I did that. Okay, I spent a lot of time evaluating my past. That was a waste of time. Doesn't matter how they got there. The fact is they're there. All right. So you want to know what your paradigm's like? Observe your behavior and your results. And you can tell very easily what's going on in there. If you want to change it, you've got to change it the same way it was put in there. Now, there's only 2 ways to fix an idea in a person's mind. 2. 1, emotional impact. And this is usually a negative. 9/11 was a negative emotional impact. Some people say when they witnessed that, when they went through that, it changed them. You ever have an emotional event in your life, something happened and bam, maybe it was a car accident or something, and it changed you. You guys been through something like that before? That's one way an idea can get fixed in a subconscious mind. You may have been through a bad accident, and now every time you get in the car, you have a reaction, right? Okay. So that's the one thing. The second way of changing it is repetition. So Josh fixed magically overnight his eating habits. He didn't do repetition. He had an emotional impact. He starved himself for 5 days. That created an emotional impact because he went through the whole spectrum of why he had these feelings towards food to begin with. All happened right there. He had to suffer. He told me he was so hungry, his stomach was eating his back. You guys, he had emotional impact. So he changed from that point on. Now, for me, I'm more of a repetition kind of person. I don't want stress of that kind of impact. So you know what? I'm going to read the same thing. I'm going to write the same thing, and I'm going to listen to the same thing until it's sunk in. And I'm not saying because I just memorized it. I'm saying because I've internalized it and I've become it. You ever see somebody that has really amazing habits? This is how I feel when I look at Aaron and Kathy Parker. I swear, I look at them, I go, man, they've got some great habits. They're showing up every day at the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're doing it. We all have the ability to do that. You ever look at somebody and you're like, man, I wish I had that habit? Well, Bob Proctor used to say he used to imagine himself as the person that had the good habits, and he would incorporate that into his life. He was becoming the person, not becoming that person, but he was taking the habits of that person and becoming that. Does that make sense? You look at somebody that has good habits, you can adopt those good habits. You can take the ones you like and discard the ones you don't like. If you've ever had a family reunion and you're looking around, you're like, how did I come from all of this? Have you guys ever been there? Have you been to a high school reunion and thought the same thing? Okay, some people aren't growing. You ever been in a room full of people that are not growing? They're stuck in first grade. You've done graduated college. It's very difficult to be on their frequency. It's almost like nails on a chalkboard. It's just not going to happen no matter how you make it work. And you try to tell yourself, but they're family, but they're old friends, but you just can't make it work. And why is that? Because you've changed your paradigm. You're not the same person anymore, and they have not. And sometimes we get people like that in our business. But the goal is to keep moving, right? So you need to do this for 30 to 60 days. Constant repetition, 30 to 60 days. If you do that, it has to happen. That defies logic. Your logical mind is going to say, I don't want to do that. If you want the results, you'll show up 30 minutes early every single day. You'll study one of these lessons. You'll study the Think and Grow Rich. You'll study. You'll put it into your mind. 30 to 60 days. You're going to change your paradigm. If you want to change your paradigm, you've got to observe a result that you don't want. Write it on a sheet of paper, burn it, and take another side of that paper and what exactly you do want, and internalize that for 30 to 60 days. Okay. Now, first, you're going to say, I know this is illogical. I know it's not going to happen. I know this is silly. But as you start to do this, you're going to see it's not so silly, and you're going to start to believe it. And then it will happen, and you're going to observe it happen in your life. I'm going to say it one more time before we wrap this up, but paradigms are nothing more than a multitude of habits. You can change them one or two at a time. All right. Now, Robert Russell, he's an author. He said, habit is God's way of making good automatic in our lives. Our habit. If you've read the book, Power of Habits, it's very much the same as well. It teaches you how to really go and do that. All right. So what are we going to do, you guys? I'm going to have you guys download the worksheets at the end of this lesson in your back office, print them out, fill them out, go through the exercises. This is really going to challenge you. It's going to stretch you beyond your current boundaries that you're in right now. We're going to replace our negative habits in our company with good ones. If you're not hosting a presentation right now, you're going to start to host one. You're going to download the slide deck under your marketing assets in your language. You're going to learn it. You're going to figure out the top 5 selling points of each brand so that you're ready. You have the specialized knowledge. And as you do this over and over again, your business will have to grow. Gold cards should also be in the back office under lesson 1. And if for whatever reason it's not, I will double check to make sure that they are there today. So I want you guys to get excited, okay, with this. You're going to be amazed at your results. Don't make this work, okay? Because as you go through this, you're putting your energy into this. It should be fun. When it's not fun anymore, it becomes work. We're not here just to work. We're here to have a good time. We're here to have fun. And when you change you, your entire world starts to change. It's documented. It's been done before. Documentation beats conversation. Been done before. It's been done in my life, and it's going to be done in your life. All right, guys. Thank you for hopping on, and I'll see you on our next lesson. Bye-bye, guys.